The Grand Conclave floated in the darkness of space like a jewel. It was the largest space station ever built, positioned at the very center of the galaxy where all the great species could meet. Today, representatives from 47 different alien species had gathered for one purpose. They were here to decide what to do about humanity. Ambassador Krell of the Vryn stood at the central podium. His scales shimmered under the bright lights as he addressed the assembled delegates. The Vryn were an old race, proud of their 3,000 years of civilization. They believed in order, in rules, in doing things the proper way. Honored delegates, Krell began, his voice amplified across the vast chamber. We have tolerated the humans for 300 years, 300 years of chaos, 300 years of broken rules. Today we must act. The chamber fell silent. Every delegate knew this moment had been coming. The humans had been trouble since the day they discovered faster-than-light travel and burst into the galactic community like children running through a library. Krell activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above the delegates' heads. Star maps covered in red markers. Each red marker was a human settlement. "Look at this," Krell said, his voice sharp with anger. 217 unauthorized colonies. 217 times the humans ignored our laws about colonization. They were told which systems they could settle. They were given clear boundaries. They ignored every single rule. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some delegates nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable. Krell continued. But that is not all. The humans modify themselves. They change their own genetic code like they are rewriting a recipe. They create artificial intelligence that thinks and feels. They contaminate primitive species with their technology and culture. They quarantine nothing. They respect nothing. From her seat among the delegates, Ambassador Leshara of the Kashari rose to speak. The Kashari were beings of pure elegance, tall and graceful with skin that seemed to glow with inner light. They were philosophers and artists, deeply concerned with harmony and balance. The humans are evolution's mistake, Leshara said, her voice musical but cold. They are too adaptable, too curious, too reckless. They do not fit into the natural order of things. Every other species in this galaxy has limits. The humans seem to have none. They push and push and push until something breaks. Usually it is our laws that break. More delegates nodded. The evidence was overwhelming. Humanity had been warned dozens of times. They apologized, paid fines, and then continued doing exactly what they wanted. A small voice spoke up from the lower section of the chamber. It was Chitrik of the Trell, an insectoid species known for their logic and fairness. Have the humans actually harmed anyone? Yes, they break rules. Yes, they move fast. But have they attacked us? Have they stolen from us? Or have they simply refused to move at our slow pace? They harm the order of things. Krell snapped back. Without order, there is chaos. Without rules, civilization falls apart. An Omith delegate rose next. The Omith were crystalline beings who communicated through light patterns. Their translator device spoke for them. This delegate agrees with the Trell. The humans are different, but different is not the same as dangerous. Perhaps our rules need to change, not them. But these were minority voices. Most of the delegates had already made up their minds. Krell called for the vote. All those in favor of Resolution 4477, the Exile of Earth, please signal now. The voting system lit up. Each delegate entered their decision privately. The results appeared on the main display. 30-8 votes in favor. 9 votes against. It was done. Krell read the resolution aloud. By order of the Galactic Council, Earth and all territories within the Sol system will be enclosed by a quantum barrier. This barrier cannot be crossed. The species known as humanity will be forever separated from the galactic community. This is not imprisonment. This is exile. Let them live in their own system, by their own rules, apart from civilized space. He paused, then continued. Humanity is hereby given 10 standard years to recall all citizens to Sol system before barrier activation. Any humans remaining outside Sol after this period will be arrested and forcibly returned. The enforcement fleet will oversee compliance. The decree was recorded and broadcast immediately. It went out across every communication frequency, toward every known human settlement, and especially toward Earth itself. Then they waited for a response. Hours passed. Then days. Nothing came back. No angry transmissions, no pleas for mercy, no desperate negotiations. Just silence. Perhaps they are in shock, suggested one delegate. Or perhaps they are preparing to comply, said another. Krell felt uneasy, though he did not say so. In all his years of diplomacy, he had never known humans to be silent. They always had something to say. They always wanted to negotiate, to argue, to find some clever loophole in the rules. But this silence was absolute. Prepare the enforcement fleet, Krell ordered. In 10 years and 1 day we sail for Sol. We will activate the barrier whether they are ready or not. The delegates departed, returning to their homeworlds. Most felt relieved. The human problem would soon be solved. Humanity would be contained, locked away where they could not disturb the careful order of galactic civilization. Only a few delegates felt doubt. Chitrik of the Trell stood at the observation window of his ship, looking out at the stars. He had studied humans extensively. They were indeed reckless and rule-breaking, but they were also clever. Dangerously clever. What are you planning? He whispered to the stars. Why are you so quiet? No answer came. In the distance, Earth continued its silent orbit around its sun, seemingly waiting. The 10-year countdown had begun, but somewhere in the darkness between stars, in places the Council had never mapped, human ships were already moving. They had been moving for decades, heading toward destinations no one else knew existed. The humans had heard the Council's decree. They simply did not care. The Exile had been voted into law. The enforcement fleet was preparing. The quantum barrier generators were being constructed. Everything was going according to the Council's plan, but the Council had made one critical mistake. They assumed humanity would wait to be exiled. They assumed humans would follow the timeline they had been given. They assumed humans would still be there when the fleet arrived. They were wrong. 10 years and 3 days after the decree, the enforcement fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system. Admiral Kethver stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the view screen with growing unease. 500 warships surrounded him. Ships from a dozen different species, all equipped with quantum barrier generators. This was the largest military operation the Council had launched in 2 centuries. They had come prepared for anything, resistance, negotiation, perhaps even an attack. They had not come prepared for silence. Scan the system, Kethver ordered. Find me every human ship, station, and settlement. The sensor officer worked at her console. She was Vryn like Kethver and prided herself on precision. Minutes passed. Then more minutes. Her confusion was visible. Admiral, she said slowly, I am detecting no active vessels. No defense platforms. No military satellites. The orbital space around Earth is ... empty. Empty? Kethver moved closer. What do you mean empty? There were thousands of structures in Earth orbit last time we surveyed. They are gone, sir. Kethver felt a chill run down his spine. Show me Earth. The view screen zoomed in on the blue and green planet. It looked peaceful, beautiful, completely normal. But something was wrong. Kethver had seen images of Earth before. It was always covered in lights at night, showing the massive cities where billions of humans lived. The orbital space was always crowded with stations, ships, and satellites. Now there was nothing. Just the planet turning silently in space. Take us closer, Kethver ordered. And send scout teams to Mars, Titan, and the Jupiter facilities. The fleet moved inward. As they passed Mars, the reports came back. The colonies on Mars were abandoned. The domes were still pressurized. The lights were still on. In some habitation units, the scout teams found meals half-eaten on tables, as if people had simply stood up and walked away in the middle of dinner, but no people. No bodies, no signs of violence or plague, just empty rooms and silent corridors. The Titan research stations were the same. Experiments were still running on automatic systems. Data was still being collected, but the scientists who had been working there were gone. Their personal belongings were still in their quarters. Family photos on desks, books left open, coffee cups sitting next to computer terminals. The Jupiter mining operations were the strangest of all. The massive equipment was still running, pulling valuable minerals from the gas giants' moons. The refineries were processing ore. The cargo containers were full of finished materials, ready to be shipped, but there were no workers. No managers. No maintenance crews. Everything was automated. Everything was working perfectly. But humanity was gone. "This makes no sense," said Commander Threll, a Kashari officer. "Where did they go?" 40 billion humans do not just disappear. Kethver had no answer. He ordered a landing party to investigate Earth itself. They chose New York as their first destination. It had been one of Earth's largest cities, home to 30 million humans. The landing craft descended through clear skies and landed in what had been called Central Park. The team stepped out into a warm summer day. Birds sang in the trees. Squirrels ran across the grass. Everything seemed normal until they looked at the city surrounding them. The buildings stood tall and proud. Windows gleamed in the sunlight. But there were no sounds of traffic. No voices. No movement at all. The team walked through empty streets. Cars were parked neatly at the curb. Shops had their lights on, displaying goods in their windows. Restaurants had tables set with clean dishes, waiting for customers who would never come. In one apartment building, they found entire floors of lived-in homes. Beds were made. Refrigerators hummed quietly, keeping food fresh. Children's toys were scattered on living room floors. Photos of smiling families hung on walls, but the families were gone. "It is like everyone vanished in an instant," whispered a young Trell soldier. "Like some god reached down and plucked them all away." The team continued searching. They checked hospitals, schools, government buildings. Everywhere they found the same thing. Lights on, systems running. Perfect order. Zero humans, except in one place. In Geneva, in the old United Nations building, they found the Council archives. It was a secure data center where Earth had kept all records of their communications with the galactic community. The building was just as empty as everywhere else. But here they found something different. A message was playing on every screen. Over and over, in an endless loop, the words appeared in standard galactic script. "You are too late. We have moved on." Kethver watched the message repeat. The 7 words. That was all. No explanation. No destination. No goodbye. Just a simple statement. "We have moved on. Search the data archives," he ordered. "Find out where they went. There must be records, flight plans, evacuation schedules, something." But the more they searched, the more disturbing the discovery became. Earth's agricultural systems were still running. Automated farms were growing food. Processing plants were packaging it. Distribution centers were storing it. All for a population that did not exist anymore. Power plants generated electricity for empty cities. Water treatment facilities purified water that no one drank. Public transportation systems ran on schedule through streets without passengers. It was as if humanity had left everything running on purpose. Not because they had left in a panic. Not because they had been forced out. But because they wanted the Council to arrive and find this, a perfectly preserved civilization. A working world. A museum of humanity. All empty. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we have found something in the data archives." A file labeled Project Diaspora. Kethver felt his heart beat faster. "Transfer it to my console." He began reading. With each line, his sense of dread grew deeper. The file was incomplete. Large sections had been deliberately erased. But what remained told a chilling story. Humanity had known. Somehow, they had known the exile was coming. Not just weeks or months before, years, decades, project. Diaspora had been initiated 70 years before first contact. That was impossible. Humanity should not have even known the galactic community existed 70 years ago. They should have been confined to their own solar system, primitive and isolated, but somehow they had known. They had detected the Council's communication networks. They had listened to broadcasts never meant for their ears. And they had learned what kind of galaxy they were about to enter. They had learned they would not be welcomed, so they had started planning their response. Not with weapons, not with war, but with the one thing humans did better than any other species. They left. Admiral, Commander Threll said quietly, if this file is accurate, the humans have been leaving Sol System for 70 years? Secret colony ships, hidden routes, unmapped destinations. Kethver stared at the empty planet on his viewscreen. The beautiful blue marble that had birthed one of the most troublesome species in the galaxy. They made us wait 10 years, he said slowly. They let us prepare this fleet. They let us build the barrier generators. They let us think we were in control. And all along they were already gone. What do we do now, sir? Kethver had no answer. They had come to exile Earth, but you cannot exile a world that is already abandoned. Activate the barrier anyway, he finally said. Seal off this system as ordered. Then we return to the Council and report what we found. As the fleet began positioning the barrier generators, Kethver looked one last time at Earth, beautiful, silent, empty, and somehow in its silence it felt like a threat. The Council chamber was in chaos when Admiral Kethver delivered his report. Delegates shouted over each other. Some demanded answers. Others refused to believe what they were hearing. 40 billion humans do not simply disappear. Ambassador Krell slammed his fist on his podium. They must be hiding somewhere in the system. Search again. We searched for 3 weeks, Kethver replied, his voice tired. We scanned every planet, every moon, every asteroid. They are not there. Humanity is gone? Ambassador Leshara of the Kashari stood, her luminous skin flickering with agitation. Then where did they go? 40 billion beings require ships. Massive ships. We monitor all space lanes. We track all major vessel movements. How did we miss an evacuation of that scale? That is what we need to determine, said Chitrik of the Trell. I recommend we investigate the data archives they left behind. The humans left that file about Project Diaspora. Perhaps they wanted us to find it. Perhaps there are more clues. The Council agreed. A special investigation team was assembled. Scientists, intelligence analysts, and military experts from multiple species converged on Earth. They worked in shifts, sifting through the massive data centers humanity had left intact. What they found changed everything. Dr. Venna, a Kashari scientist specializing in historical analysis, made the first major discovery. She was reviewing Earth's deep space monitoring records from 70 years ago when she noticed something unusual. Look at this, she told her team. 73 years ago, Earth launched a new type of satellite network. According to their public records, it was for astronomy research. But look at the power consumption. These satellites were using 100 times more energy than needed for simple observation. What were they doing? Asked her assistant. They were listening, Venna said quietly. Not to their own star system. They were listening to us, to the galactic communication networks. Somehow, decades before official first contact, humans detected our signals. The team dug deeper. They found evidence that humanity had been intercepting Council communications for years before revealing themselves. They had listened to diplomatic discussions, trade negotiations, scientific conferences, and military briefings. They had learned everything about the galactic community while remaining hidden. When humans finally revealed themselves and asked to join the Council, they already knew exactly what kind of reception they would receive. They knew they would be seen as dangerous, reckless, incompatible with galactic order. So they had started Project Diaspora, Commander. Thrall discovered the next piece of the puzzle in a secret facility beneath the Gobi Desert. The entrance had been left unlocked. Inside, they found ship construction records that should not have existed. According to official records, humanity built 247 colony ships, Thrall reported. But these construction logs show something different. They built over 300 ships. Large ones, each capable of carrying 100,000 people in cryosleep. Where are the extra ships? Cuthbert demanded. Gone, launched toward destinations not in any official filing. The departure records were wiped, but the construction receipts remain. Someone wanted us to know these ships existed, but not where they went. The pattern became clear. Humanity had been playing a game. Every official colony they established, every settlement the Council knew about, had been a distraction. The real human expansion was happening in secret, in unmapped regions of space where the Council never looked. The investigation team found more evidence in the months that followed. Hidden research facilities revealed that humans had been developing quantum tunneling technology. Not the slow, limited version they had shared with the Council. Real quantum tunneling. Instant travel across vast distances. This changes everything, Dr. Venna said as she reviewed the quantum research data. If they perfected this technology, they could move entire populations anywhere in the galaxy instantly. No travel time. No supply chains. No way to track them. But the most disturbing discovery came from a young Trell analyst named Crix. He had been reviewing the Council's own records, comparing them to what they found on Earth. I found something, he said during a team meeting. Something terrible. Look at this. He displayed 2 star maps. One showed the locations of all known human colonies based on Council intelligence. The other showed human settlements mentioned in the Project Diaspora files. There was no overlap. Not a single colony appeared on both maps. The colonies we knew about, Crix explained, were never real settlements. They were decoys. Small populations. Just enough humans to make noise, to break rules, to keep us focused on them. While we watched those 200 colonies, thousands of real human settlements were being built elsewhere. The room fell silent as everyone understood what this meant. They used our own system against us, Chitrik said. They knew we would be watching them. So they gave us something to watch. Something to be angry about. Something to vote on exiling. And while we debated their 200 illegal colonies, they were building 2,000 legal ones in space we did not know existed. Dr. Venna pulled up more data. It gets worse. I've been analyzing the technology they left behind. The artificial intelligence systems, the genetic modification techniques, the quantum research. All of it. What about it? It is too advanced, too diverse. Look at this AI core. It uses Vrin mathematical principles. This genetic sequencer is based on Kashari biotech. This power system is clearly derived from Omith crystal technology. The implications crash down on everyone in the room. They reverse-engineered our technology, Cuthbert said. All of it. From every species on the Council. Not just reverse-engineered, Venna corrected. They improved it. This AI is more advanced than anything the Vrin have built. This genetic technology surpasses Kashari medical science. They took our best work and made it better. How? Krell demanded. They had only 300 years. We have civilizations thousands of years old. How did they advance so quickly? No one had an answer. Or rather, they had an answer they did not want to admit. Humans were simply better at innovation. Better at adaptation. Better at taking ideas and pushing them farther than their creators ever imagined. The final piece of the puzzle came from the Geneva archives, an encrypted file that took 3 months to decode. When they finally opened it, they found a detailed timeline. Project Diaspora Phase 1. Launch secret colony ships to unmapped space. Establish hidden settlements. Build quantum tunnel network. Timeline. 50 years before first contact to 20 years before first contact. Project Diaspora Phase 2. Make official first contact. Join Galactic Council. Share limited technology. Establish obvious colonies to draw attention. Continue building hidden settlements. Develop quantum tunneling for instant travel. Timeline. First contact to 10 years before Exile vote. Project Diaspora Phase 3, The Great Exodus. Once exile is certain, evacuate entire human population through quantum tunnels. Leave Earth intact as a message. Ensure all evidence points to human expansion far beyond council space. Timeline. 5 years before exile vote to activation of barrier. They planned this for 70 years, Chitrik said, reading the timeline. 70 years. They knew the exile would happen before we even met them. How could they know? Someone asked. Because they listened to us argue about other species, Dr. Venna said softly. Before first contact, they heard us debate what to do about the Cleith, the Morven, the Trell, every new species that did not fit perfectly into council order. They heard how we treated difference, how we feared adaptation and change. They knew that when they revealed themselves, we would eventually try to contain them. Kethver looked at the empty planet displayed on the screen. Beautiful Earth with its empty cities and running systems? All left behind on purpose. It is a message, he said. This whole planet is a message to us. They are saying they do not need our permission. They do not need our rules. They do not need us at all. What do we do? Commander Threll asked. Report to the council, Kethver said. Tell them everything. Tell them that humanity was not exiled. Humanity left. And they left because they found us too small, too fearful, too rigid for their ambitions. The investigation team prepared their report. It would take weeks to compile all the evidence. But one thing was already clear. The council had not solved the human problem. They had made it infinitely worse. Instead of 40 billion humans confined to one star system, they now had 40 billion humans scattered across unknown space, equipped with advanced technology. And completely free from any council oversight, they had voted to exile Earth, but the humans were already gone, and they had taken the galaxy with them. 6 months after the investigation report was delivered, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. What they heard in that meeting would shake their civilization to its core. Admiral Kethver stood before them again, but this time he was not there to report on an empty planet. He was there to report on a galaxy that was no longer theirs alone. In the past 6 months, he began, we have received over 2,000 reports of human presence across council space. These are not the colonies we knew about. These are not temporary settlements. These are established civilizations. The display behind him lit up with a new star map. Red markers appeared across the galaxy, hundreds of them, then thousands. The delegates watched in growing horror as the map filled with red. Each marker represents a confirmed human settlement, Kethver continued. Some are small research stations. Others are cities with populations in the millions. The oldest settlements we have found are over 120 years old. They predate first contact by decades. Impossible. Krell shouted. We would have detected them. We detected only what they wanted us to detect, Kethver replied calmly. The 200 colonies we knew about? Those were bait? Deliberate violations to keep our intelligence services focused on the wrong regions. While we tracked those obvious settlements, thousands of real colonies grew in unexplored space. Ambassador Lashara rose, her voice shaking. How many humans are we talking about? Current estimates suggest over 100 billion. The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted in disbelief. 100 billion. That was more than double the pre-exile population. It meant humanity had not just evacuated Earth, they had been growing exponentially in secret. There is more, Kethver said, waiting for silence. Human quantum tunneling technology is operational. We have confirmed reports of human ships appearing in systems with no prior travel time. They can move anywhere in the galaxy instantly. Then the barrier around Sol is useless, Chitrik observed. Completely useless, Kethver agreed. Even if humans wanted to return to Earth, they do not need to fly through the barrier. They can simply tunnel through it. The economic minister of the Vrin delegation stood. What about trade impact? Are they disrupting our commercial networks? Disrupting? Kethra let out a bitter laugh. Minister, they are replacing them. Human trade networks now operate in over 1,500 systems. They offer better prices, faster delivery, and more diverse goods than council merchants. We estimate they control 30% of the galactic economy. 30%? The minister sat down heavily. In 6 months? No, Minister. They have been building this network for decades. We are only noticing it now because they are no longer hiding. A Kashari cultural attach spoke up. What about cultural contamination? Are they still interfering with primitive species? Dr. Venna, who had joined the delegation as an expert witness, answered this question. Cultural contamination was always the wrong term. I have visited 17 systems with significant human presence. What I found was not contamination. It was integration. Humans do not impose their culture. They share it. And species voluntarily adopt elements they find useful. She displayed images from her travels. Cities where humans lived alongside Trell, Kashari, and a dozen other species. Markets where human art was sold beside traditional crafts. Schools where human teachers educated alien children in mathematics and science. In every system I visited, Venna continued, I found the same pattern. Humans arrive. They trade. They share technology and culture. They defend the system if threatened. And the local population welcomes them. Not because they are forced to, but because they choose to. This is unacceptable, Krell declared. We must establish control. Deploy the military. Show these systems that cooperating with unsanctioned human settlements has consequences. Chitrik stood slowly. The small Trell delegate walked to the center of the chamber so everyone could see him. Consequences? He said, You want to threaten our own member species because they trade with humans? You want to punish them for choosing better partners? The humans are not legitimate partners, Krell argued. They are exiles. No, Chitrik said firmly. We voted to exile them. But they left before the exile took effect. Legally, they were never exiled. They simply chose to leave. Everything they have done since then is completely legal under council law because they are doing it outside council jurisdiction. They are still violating colonization protocols. Are they? Show me one human colony in a claimed system. Show me one instance where they settled a world already inhabited by a council species. You cannot because they have not. Every human settlement is in unclaimed space. Space we did not want. Space we deemed worthless. The humans took what we discarded and built empires from it. The delegates murmured. Chitrik was right. Legally, humanity had broken no laws since leaving Sol. They had established settlements only in unclaimed territory. They had traded only with willing partners. They had defended primitive worlds from pirates and slavers, which was not illegal. It was just not something the council usually bothered to do. The question before us, Chitrik continued, is not how to control humanity. That ship has left port. The question is whether we have the wisdom to adapt. The humans are not going away. They are not asking our permission. They are offering partnership to anyone who wants it. Meanwhile, we sit here debating rules they are not bound by. What are you suggesting? Ishara asked. I am suggesting we made a mistake. We judged humanity by how different they were rather than by what they could offer. We feared their adaptability instead of learning from it. We tried to contain them, and in doing so, we set them free. Now they are everything we feared, everywhere, uncontained, uncontrollable. And do you know what the worst part is? Chitrik looked around the chamber. Most of the galaxy does not fear them. Most of the galaxy likes them. The humans bring opportunity, innovation, protection, hope, things many species have not received from the Council in centuries. We are not losing control because humanity is taking it. We are losing it because we never deserved it in the first place. The chamber fell silent. Many delegates looked uncomfortable. Others looked angry. But none could deny the truth in Chitrik's words. Ambassador Lishara spoke quietly. What happened to us? We were supposed to be the wise ones. The advanced civilizations. The guardians of galactic order. When did we become the one species want to escape from? When we chose order over justice, Chitrik replied. When we chose control over freedom. When we chose rules over wisdom. The humans did not destroy the council. We destroyed ourselves by being too rigid to bend, too proud to learn, and too fearful to accept those who were different from us. Kethver cleared his throat. There is one more thing the council should know. 3 days ago we received a transmission. It was addressed to this council. It came from someone claiming to be a human diplomatic envoy. What did they want? Krell asked. They want to talk. They are offering to send a representative to this council to discuss what they call the Accord of Stars, a new framework for human-council relations. We should refuse, Krell said immediately. We do not negotiate with exiles. They are not exiles, Chitrik reminded him. And we do not have the luxury of refusal anymore. If we refuse, they will continue doing what they have been doing. They do not need us. But perhaps, if we are wise enough to listen, we might discover that we need them. The vote was called. Should the council hear the human envoy? This time, the result was different from the exile vote, 39 in favor. 8 against. Ambassador Kethver was assigned to make contact with the humans and arrange the meeting. As he left the chamber, he felt the weight of history on his shoulders. The galaxy was changing. The old order was crumbling. And somewhere out in the vast darkness of space, humanity was building something new, something the council had not imagined. Something they had not planned for. Something they could not stop. The humans had been voted into exile. But exile had only made them stronger. Now they were coming back, not as supplicants begging for membership, but as equals demanding recognition. The council had thought they were ending the human problem. Instead, they had created the human era. And whether the council liked it or not, that era had already begun. 20 years had passed since the exile vote. The Galactic Council chamber looked the same, but everything else had changed. 15 species had withdrawn from full council membership. They had not left in anger or protest. They had simply declared themselves independent and formed direct treaties with human governments. It was more profitable, more flexible, and according to the surveys, more fair. The council that remained was smaller, quieter, and much more uncertain about its place in the galaxy. Today, they were gathered to meet with the human envoy who had requested an audience 2 decades ago. It had taken 20 years of negotiations just to agree on the terms of this meeting. The council insisted on protocols. The humans kept ignoring them and doing what they wanted anyway. Finally, both sides had agreed to sit down and talk. Admiral Kethver, now retired but serving as a special consultant, stood near the entrance as the human delegation arrived. He had spent 20 years studying humanity. He thought he understood them. But when the envoy walked into the chamber, he realized he understood nothing at all. She was young, perhaps 30 Earth years old. She wore simple clothing, not the formal robes or uniforms other delegates preferred. She walked with confidence but without arrogance. Her eyes took in everything, analyzing, calculating, understanding. Honored delegates, she said, her voice clear and strong. My name is Ambassador Chun Wei. I represent the Terran Commonwealth, the independent human worlds, and the associated colonial systems. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. Ambassador Krell, older now but still proud, spoke first. We agreed to this meeting because we hope to establish boundaries, rules of engagement, protocols for human expansion. Chun smiled politely. I appreciate your hope, Ambassador Krell, but I am not here to discuss boundaries. I am here to offer partnership. Partnership? Lissara said. She had aged gracefully, her luminous skin now marked with patterns of wisdom. You speak as if we are equals. We are equals, Chun replied simply. Actually, depending on how you measure it, humanity might be ahead in some areas. But I prefer to think of us as equals. It makes for better cooperation. The chamber stirred with indignation. But Jean continued before anyone could interrupt. Let me share some facts with you. Current human population across all settlements, 137 billion. Number of human settlements, 3,412. Number of systems where humans have significant presence, 2,894. Number of species who have formal treaties with human governments, 63. She paused to let the numbers sink in. 63 species, she repeated. That includes 32 council member species and 31 species you never contacted. Species living in regions you never explored. Species who were developing alone until we found them and offered friendship instead of rules. You had no right to contact primitive species, Krell objected. By what law? Chun asked. We are not council members. We never signed your non-interference protocols. We contacted other species the same way you contacted us. We offered trade, knowledge, and friendship. They chose to accept. That is their right as sovereign beings. Chitrik, still serving as the Trell delegate after all these years, made a clicking sound of amusement. She has you there, Krell. The humans are not bound by our laws because we exiled them. We did not exile them, Krell said tiredly. They left before the exile took effect. Exactly, Chun agreed. We left. We took our ships, our people, our technology, and we left. We went to places you did not want. We built civilizations and systems you ignored. We explored regions you deemed too distant or too dangerous. And we thrived. She activated a holographic display. A new star map appeared, but this one was different from what the Council had seen before. It showed not just human settlements but something far more complex. Trade routes in blue. Defense packs in green. Cultural exchange programs in yellow. Scientific collaboration in purple. The lines connected human worlds to each other and to hundreds of non-human systems. It looked like a web spreading across the galaxy. This is the real galaxy, Chun said. Not the small, controlled space the Council manages. This is a galaxy where species cooperate by choice, not by mandate. Where trade happens because it benefits both parties, not because regulations require it. Where primitive worlds are protected by volunteer fleets. Not ignored because they cannot pay tribute. You make us sound like tyrants, Lysara said quietly. No, Chun replied, and her voice was gentle. I make you sound like bureaucrats. Like people who built a system that worked for a while, but stopped adapting. You are not evil. You are just rigid. And in a changing galaxy, rigidity is death. She deactivated the display and looked around at the assembled delegates. I am here to offer the Accord of Stars. It is very simple. 5 principles. That is all. She held up one finger. First, the Council acknowledges its authority over member species and their territories. We do not challenge this. A second finger. Second, the Council acknowledges human sovereignty in unclaimed space and in systems where we have established legitimate settlements. You do not challenge this. A third finger? Third, free trade and cultural exchange for all willing participants. No forced membership. No mandatory regulations. Species choose their partners. A fourth finger. Fourth, mutual defense packs available but optional. If a council world is threatened, humans will help defend it if asked. If a human world is threatened, the council will help defend it if asked. Cooperation, not obligation. A fifth finger. Fifth, joint exploration and research in uncharted regions. The galaxy is vast. Neither the Council nor humanity can explore it alone. Together we can learn more, grow more, and discover more. She lowered her hand. That is the Accord. 5 simple principles. Sign it and we have peace, prosperity, and partnership. Refuse it and nothing changes. We continue doing what we have been doing. You continue doing what you have been doing. But I think we both know which future is better. Ambassador Krell studied the human envoy. You said humanity's population is 137 billion. That is more than triple what you had 20 years ago. How? We reproduce, Chun said with a slight smile. And we have very good medical technology. Low infant mortality. Long lifespans. Plus, we have been finding lost human colonies. Small groups that left Earth centuries ago with slower-than-light ships. We have been bringing them into the Commonwealth. Every year we find more. And your military capabilities? Kethfer asked. How many warships does humanity possess? Chun looked at him. Enough. That is all I will say. We have enough to defend ourselves and our allies. We have enough to make any attack on human worlds very costly. But not enough to threaten the Council even if we wanted to. Which we do not. Why not? Leshara asked. If you are so powerful, why offer partnership? Why not simply take what you want? Because that is not who we are, Chun replied. You exiled us because you feared we were too aggressive, too expansionist, too dangerous. But you never understood what drives humanity. We do not expand to conquer. We expand to explore. We do not build weapons to attack. We build them to defend. We do not seek power over others. We seek freedom for ourselves. She walked to the center of the chamber. You voted to exile Earth. You wanted us gone, contained, removed from your perfect galactic order. And you know what? You freed us. You freed us from trying to fit into your rules. You freed us from seeking your approval. You freed us to be what we always were, explorers, builders, survivors, humans. You wanted to lock us in one-star system? So we claimed 10,000? You wanted us to stop breaking your rules? So we went where your rules do not apply. You wanted us to disappear. And we did. We disappeared beyond your borders, beyond your sensors, beyond your understanding. And we built something you never imagined. She spread her arms, gesturing to the vastness beyond the council chamber. This is not your galaxy anymore. It is not our galaxy either. It is everyone's galaxy. Every species that wants to explore it. Every civilization that wants to grow. Every world that wants to choose its own path. The Council can be part of this future, or you can remain in your comfortable, controlled, shrinking past. The choice is yours. The delegates sat in silence. They had expected demands, threats, concessions. Instead, they had received an invitation. Come join the future or be left behind. Finally, Chitrik spoke. I vote in favor of the Accord of Stars, not because humanity forces us to, but because it is the right thing to do. The galaxy has changed. We must change with it. One by one, other delegates rose to support the accord. Even Krell, proud and stubborn Krell, eventually stood. I vote in favor, he said. Not because I was wrong about humanity, but because I was wrong about what being wrong meant. I thought humanity was dangerous. They are. But dangerous is not the same as evil. A knife is dangerous. Fire is dangerous. But we do not ban knives or fire. We learn to use them wisely. The vote was called. This time it was not about exile. It was about acceptance. 40-2 in favor. 0 against. 5 abstentions. The Accord of Stars was adopted. Ambassador Chun bowed respectfully. Thank you. I will inform my government. We will begin implementing the accord immediately. I look forward to centuries of cooperation. As the meeting ended and delegates departed, Admiral Kethver approached Chun.